20K is a lot, but it's also nothing. If there's anything to take away from this video, it's that. So I wanted to send you guys this for a long time, and it's just basically how I manage my finances and uh, go through my week to week when it comes to managing finances and getting closer to my financial goals. Um, I don't want this to be too lectury, but I do want to just help you guys and educate you guys because this is, again, something I've been wanting to share with you guys for a very long time. And with the inheritance coming in, I just thought it would be appropriate to send it now, just so that you guys can make wiser decisions with your money. Now, first things first, when you guys get your inheritance, plain and simple, the best thing for, I think, our family relationships, for us moving forward, and just keeping things together is as soon as you receive these checks, act like no one received the check. It's just kinder. Everyone has a right to do whatever they want with these checks. And so as soon as they're dispersed, me as executor will have to disperse them. But once they are dispersed, I'm going to act like it never happened. And I think that's kinder to do because, again, you're free to do it whatever you want with it. If you want to go to the casino and bet it all away, do it, you know? But I just wanted to, again, show maybe some alternatives to the casino or other means of spending this money. And so this is just mainly a financial management video based on how we can maintain it. But again, once you receive it, just act like no one received it, because it would be very hurtful in the future to hear, oh man, I need help with this, I need help with that. And someone snaps back at you and says, well, what did you do with all your money? None of your business. Each of us have individual needs, each of us have individual responsibilities, and so I think it's just important to consider that. Okay, so when it comes to financial management, I have created my own kind of spreadsheet, Google Doc, and I can share this with you guys. That's completely fine. If I were to do this for the very first time, I would go ahead and look at the sheet itself, try and understand it, and create my own copy. And so here I'm just going to make a copy. You see that says copy of demo client. I'm just going to put my name here. And pro dash master number sheet. And so this is what I use to just make sure I'm managing my money. Now, this is going to look different for all of you because, again, personal finance is personal. And so it's going to be different based on income, based on tax obligations, based on all types of different factors. And so I'm just going to try and teach you how to use this form and how I go through it. And so if I'm building out this form for the first time, I'm looking at wages. Okay, $16 an hour is how much I make. We get paid in 86 hours and 67 hour increments. You can determine this based on your pay stub. Every time you get a paycheck, they're supposed to put this information on it. And so you can go ahead and look at that. If there's any stipends, sometimes you get a communication stipend. That could be like something like at Stria for me, that was like $20. That was nice. At Stria, I had like $20 an hour. And so let me make sure I'm putting that information in. I go through how often. So I got paid semi-monthly, and this is still accurate. If I wanted to do bi-weekly, I would just change this text to bi-weekly. It's just a context thing. It's just to know what is actually when am I actually getting paid. And so to be more accurate when it comes to bi-weekly, this is more like 2.25 or something like that, because the weeks, not every month has 4 weeks, or not every month has 4.5 weeks, but some of them do. And so that's why it's just make sure you do your math. There's 52 weeks in a year, and you can do that calculation yourself. Bonuses. Now, you'll notice that this is a work in progress. Bonuses is one of those things that I wanted to include in here, but quite frankly, I feel like there needs to be a better way to track it. Because as soon as you enter something in here, the idea initially was that it would help you track your tax obligations, and it does. But it doesn't always calculate it fully. And the reason why is because this is basing it as if we are starting in January. If you get your bonus in June, this is going to miss approximately 6 months of savings that you should be holding on to for your tax obligations at the end of the year. And so just making sure that you acknowledge that there's a work in progress is important. And if you guys find any things that is incorrect with the math or you want to update yourselves, l- a ask me, tell me about it. I want to hear it because this is all about just improving our ability to move forward. And so if you want to make it anywhere, you need a plan. And so, I mean, plan it out, you know? You have to have to-do lists where you just have things that help you. I try and do a kind of habit wheel where essentially I tell myself um, this is why I'm doing the certain thing. And then once I complete that thing, then I can basically reward myself with positive affirmations. And if I'm having trouble, then you kind of just have to do threat of loss sometimes. Oh, this is what you lose by not completing these tasks. And so the way that I like to do it is I like to do too small and too big. This week is a bit of a crunch, and so that's why you see a little bit more than that during this week's process, but essentially that's what it is. I'm just doing one big task, which is equivalent to 4 to 8 hours, and then two small tasks, which is equivalent to 2 hours or less. This helps me stay on track, and I always keep Fridays having two catch-up sections, and so a big catch-up and a small catch-up. And so if I ever fall behind on my tasks, then I can just go in and complete them. Same thing with your calendar. You just need to have your calendar organized. And so this is just what's been helping me try and get better at doing all the things that I need to do. Mind you, no one's perfect. It's not gonna be, you're not gonna do this all the time. I mean, if I scroll back in my calendar, you're gonna see throughout the days it says off schedule, on schedule, off schedule, off schedule. And that's because I'm doing my best to stay on schedule so that I'm doing the basic things that I need, eating lunch, you know, doing all my jobs at Marshfield, cleaning my house, getting ready for the day. Aftercare used to be after the shower, but yeah, you're gonna adjust and figure it out over time. And so really when you start, I would just put the main things on there. I would just put work, when you need to eat, sleep, that's it. From there, you can be more fluid about it. And mine is more strict because I'm just more, I try to be very on top of things and there's a lot I'm trying to accomplish. And so again, mind you that this is what it looks like for an ambitious person's calendar, but yours doesn't have to look like this. I also try to leave an hour of open space every day for joy, but you know, it doesn't always work out. Like you see, I'm in June. That is because there is tons of other stuff that I have on my calendar that uh, makes it a mess, and so this is the cleaner version of what my calendar looks like. And over time, I'm going to be opening more space because this is not feasible long term. This is just short term. Okay, talking about long term, again, 20,000 is a lot, but it's also a little. 20,000 is pretty much enough for emergency savings in America nowadays. There's health bills, there's car bills, there's this, there's that. Emergency savings is supposed to make up 3 months minimum of your bills. And if you don't have that in liquid cash, then that's a problem. 20,000 is also a lot because you could buy something like a car or a house. You could put a down payment on a house with $20,000. And I would just tell you to be fucking careful. Location, location, location when it comes to real estate. But the other thing is, it can really push you forward for investments. And so the compound interest calculator is not something that is included in my yearly report, but it's something that helps you understand how actually close you are. So let's say that the inheritance is $20,000 and you put that in as your initial investment. You do a monthly contribution because you need to do monthly contributions of $100. Now, $100 is all you need from the age of, I believe, 18 to 65 to get $1 million. That's it. If you do this every month consistently, you will have $1 million by 67. That easy. But the later you start, the more this expands. I believe at age 35, you need to have about $350 invested each month to make $1 million, the same as someone who started when they were 18. So again, I've really wanted to send this to you guys sooner. I needed to prove the method. I needed to make sure that everything works. And now that I know that everything does work, that the method is real, that everything is here, that's why I'm sharing it now. I'm so sorry that I couldn't share it sooner, but this is just what I could do with the knowledge that I have. So length and time. So again, if we're doing this, since we are like for work years, let's just say 40, right? And we're all getting a bit older, so how about we say 35, right? So 35 years. Estimated interest rate. The average interest rate per year is 10%. If you want to be, and then here is the interest rate variance range. Over the course of years, there's going to be good and bad years. There's going to be some years where this is 15% in 1 year. If you put in $100 and it came out as $115 at the end of the year, you've got $15 for free. If at the end of the year it ends up at 5%, which is much lower, you end up with $105 a year. That's still $5 free. And again, this will add up tremendously over time. And so interest rate, variance range, and then compound frequency is typically annually. So let's go ahead and calculate that. And you see that in 35 years, you're almost at $1 million. So again, if you started at 18, if you started at that time, you would have $1 million. And so play with this. All you have to do is search up compound interest calculator. They have it on investor.gov, and this is what helps you. You can see that if the market is exceedingly well, you will have 7 million. But if the market goes really bad, you'll only have 285,000. So starting soon is important. You will likely be more so between these two numbers of 1.4 and $0.2 million. Okay. So now you'll see that because I put this information in, the gross income has been updated based on that information. You don't really want to touch any of these equations because they're already done for you, but some of these equations you might want to tweak, and I'll show you that in a moment. Then you see that you have your taxes based on tax deduction. And so this year in 2026, the standard deduction is $15,750. If you're doing something special, such as donating the maximum amount to donate so that you can avoid paying taxes to the government as much, you will be voiding yourself from the standard deduction. That's because there is, essentially you can choose between either doing standard deduction or personal deductions, custom deductions. And if you do custom deductions, it's a lot more complicated. I have yet to figure that out, but if you really want to get into that and figure that out, talk to a CPA. That's a certified tax person who can help organize that for you. And they're also typically those CPAs are also in part accountants. And so if there's something like if you don't want to do all this by yourself, and you want second eyes or this and that, you could pay an accountant for it. I find that financial advisors are mainly just for people who can't manage their emotions. If you are the type of person who sees your investment portfolio and sees that it has $20,000 in it, and you're like, man, I could get a new car. A financial manager is probably for you because they're going to tell you, no, you probably shouldn't do that, and make sure that you stay aligned with your investments. Okay, so gross income here, tax deduction, like I said, this is pulling from this section here. Now, there's two things. There's going to be your income tax, and it's going to be based on federal and state. This is based on California. That's why you see the CA here as a note. And income taxes, we have just, again, federal tax limits, state tax limits. And how is this broken down? I mean, I looked this up. I found, oh, federal tax is going to be 10% for any amount under X. And so for us, 10% under or equal to 12,400 of your dollars is going to be $200 plus this 2.2. Now, that sounds confusing, and I know. I'm trying to explain this the best way I can. So, essentially, to break down how taxes work, you have $100. Taxes, let's say says $100 is the range. Then, if you have $100, or let's make this $100, this 50, this 25. So you're never going to hit this mark. Even though you have $100, you're not going to hit that mark because this is 50 and this is 100. The range is going to be basically what you're doing, what you have minus those brackets. So if I make $100 a year, the first tax bracket is $50. And let's go ahead and put this over here. And the next tax bracket is $100. How it works is my first $50 is going to be taxed at this rate. So our first $10,756 is going to be taxed at a rate of 11.1% because it's federal tax plus state tax. And that equals to, and I've already done the math here, $1,193.92. Cool. So then now, whatever is left of that, our next goes forward. And so again, talking about this 100, our first $50 got taxed here. So now, when we go to this second tax bracket, it's only going to be able to tax $50 worth because that's all that's left. And so $50 will be taxed to this $100 tax bracket. So here we have 10,000, our first 10,000, then between 12,400 and 10,000 gets taxed at 12.2%. And that's where we get this $200 amount. And then that's it. We don't get taxed anything else. And the other reason for it is because of the standard deduction. Not only does the standard deduction help us, but you can reduce your tax obligation even further. How? Because we're investing. We are trying to follow this FIRE status, which FIRE stands for, I forget exactly. Oh, financially independent, retire early. That's what that acronym stands for. And it's called FIRE just because it takes a lot of discipline, it's a lot of work, and it's just aggressive saving. And this is how millennials came up with this. This is how millennials were retiring at 30 because they did this. They ate potatoes, beans, bread, barely anything. And as a couple, and again, I do want to emphasize that most of these people who did retire early did it as a couple. They basically worked part-time jobs and just lived in the cheapest conditions ever and saved enough money so that they could retire forever. So anyone can do this. They figured it out, and it's not like they started early. They started at like 20 and were able to retire at 35. So this is a possibility for you too, depending on how aggressive you want to do this. And we'll go further into this fire retirement section, but just again, talking about the tax obligation portion, um, your 401k is not taxable. It's only taxable after you take it out of the 401k. And you should only ever take out your 401k once you've hit your retirement age. So once you're 65, in our case, 67, because they're upping the age as we progress, you can take out this money. It will be taxed at a certain percentage, but it'll be taxed at long-term capital gains, and it will just be taxed at the income rate, your current income rate. Typically, that's great because that just reduces your tax obligations now. Why is it important to reduce your tax obligations now? Because the power of the dollar is stronger today than it will be tomorrow. If we look at interest calculator, or inflation calculator, I mean, we can see that 2008, $100 compared to now is $154.80. And that's just basic inflation. I emphasize this because we have it harder. Things are going to be more expensive for us. And so having $100 right now is equivalent to a future of $154. Use the money wisely. Okay, so this is going to take off as much as we can. There's maximum contribution limits. You can look this up. And so for me, I'm just going to look up 401k max contribution 2026. This is 2025. And this is just how I have to update it every year. I just make sure that I look up the numbers and see what is the actual amount. This is not what we need. I hate you, Yahoo. So for 2025, it was 23,500. 2026, 24,500 for employee salary deferrals. And so that's what we have, 24,500. And the best thing about a 401k, if you don't have a stupid company like mine that doesn't provide it, is matches. Because typically what a company will do is they will match 50% of up to 8% contributions. That's pretty standard. And what does this mean? This means that if you like, we're putting in 6% of our salary, 6.25% of our salary. If we put in 8%, if we put in 10%, let's say, then you're contributing annually $4,208.11 into your 401k. They will match only up to 8%. And so let's go down back to 8%. That means $3,366.49. So you contribute $3,366.49 a year, and your employer, because they do 50% up to 8% match, they are going to do half of this. That's crazy. That's just free money. That doesn't come out of your paycheck. That doesn't come out of anything. Just free money just for setting up your 401k because they give you half of this. So that basically means they give you $1,750 a year free. So just do the 401k setup. That's really the easiest thing for you to do to, again, reduce your tax obligations. This is your total tax obligations of the year, and you can determine this again based on your pay stubs. It's going to tell you how much you're paying in Social Security, how much you're paying in Medicare, but the math is already there for you. 6.2% is Social Security, and escape this. 1.45 is for Medicare. So there's all types of things you can do when it comes to taxes, and so that includes the tax portion. And so yeah, our taxes deducted is going to be this. Let me fix this again. Back to 6.25. Our tax deducted basically makes up 10.96% of our income a year. And so $4,613.69. And if you pay more on this throughout the year, that's okay. You'll get a refund at the end of the year for it. However, just note that the IRS sucks. If you have a return higher than $1,000, there's a stipulation in there that states that they will charge you for basically holding your money as if they're like charging you like a bank or a savings account. They're basically saying, oh, well, you gave us too much money and we had to hold it for you. So because we had to hold it for you, we're going to take an extra like $200. So you gave us $2,000. We're going to take $200 of that and your return is going to be $1,800. And the reverse is true too. If you underpay them by $1,000, then you get punished for it. Oh, well, you didn't pay us enough. So now you're going to get accrued an extra fee of $200. So just something to note. You want for perfect taxes to be as close to zero as possible. And so having extra withholdings can help you if you think that you're going to underpay. And extra withholdings is going to be a requirement for you if you make anything over, I believe it's 65,000, if I recall correctly, my tax person telling me. Because as soon as you cross that threshold, um, your automatic withholdings that your employer does, because it's percentile based, is no longer as accurate. And so once you pass that 65,000 threshold, you're going to want some type of extra withholdings in here, just so that you don't go too much over. You can claim yourself as a dependent too. So like there's that 0 or 1 option. If you do 1, you'll get more money back per check. But again, if you pass that $65,000 threshold, you're more likely to pay higher tax at the end of the year. So I currently have mine at 0 on that W-2 sheet, and just clarifying again some extra tax things. So that's taxes, including some of our fire breakdown. And so there's all types of different instruments for saving money. And I'm going to go through, we already went through the 401k match. Then we have emergency savings. Again, emergency savings. This max contribution is just based on what the average people our age are saving per year. Average people our year are only capable of saving $6,164 a year. Okay, fine. But we can only afford 2,630. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. And so we just want to make sure that we get 3 to 6 months of emergency savings. Now, when it comes to emergency savings, I would also include in this 3 months of food. Seriously. With how hard the economy is getting, we don't know if there's ever going to be a Great Depression, but we're pretty sure there's coming one. But they've been saying that for the past 10 years. So regardless, how I have mine set up is I do 3.2 is just to give it a little bit more breathing room, but 3 months of emergency savings, and 3 months of emergency food and water. So that's 6 months where if I'm out of the job, if I need to skip rent, if I need to uh whatever, I can still contribute to my investment portfolio without touching my investment portfolio at all because I saved enough. I prepared, and I just want you guys to be prepared too because emergencies happen in life. Roth IRA, this gets pre-taxed, and so you're going to get taxed on this regardless. It's just treated as if this was your regular income. You're just basically putting it into a savings account, essentially. But it's an investment savings account. And so we'll go over investing in a minute here. But yeah, Roth IRA, pretty good investment tool. I use both as well as this, the health savings account. This one is most powerful when it comes to taxes, but least powerful in flexibility. The reason why is because the health savings account, your employer might have something called an FSA. It's similar because they give you like a credit card and you get to use it on medical expenses throughout the year. However, whatever you don't spend on that FSA card is removed at the end of the year. You don't get to stack it or save it or anything. And so it's really not the greatest. But at least it pays for some of your medical expenses. And so regardless if you have that, I would still get a HSA, which is a health savings account. This reduces your tax liability because you don't get taxed on it. And when you pull out the money, you also don't get taxed on it. You never get taxed on this money. That's the cool part. America has recognized that our health system is so fucked that that's why this tool exists. But the caveat is that, again, it's the least flexible. Because what you have to do to use this money is there is no age requirement, but there is a receipt requirement. If you go to the hospital and you spend money out of this account, you're going to need to provide some pretty good receipts for the IRS so that you don't get audited or you don't get punished tax-wise for pulling out of this. I would again suggest that you only pull out of these tools once you meet retirement age. In America, the youngest you can do that is 55 years old, but they expect you to pull Social Security at 65, 67 if you're in our generation. And so don't do this until you're like 67. You want to save as much as possible. And again, remember that compound interest. Putting that money in there is going to continue to compound. And then there's an individual stocks portfolio. This is also known as a brokerage account. This will be the account you want to have if you want to leave behind generational wealth. Plain and simple. What you are going to want to do if you are preparing for the end of life preparations, you're going to want to take all of these accounts, empty them so that you take on the tax liability, and place it into your brokerage account. So that when you die, your inheritors receive what's known as a step-up clause. And so the step-up clause essentially makes it so that, and it just makes it so much cleaner when it comes to inheritance too, but just, it makes it one simple account. They just pull from that, you set up beneficiaries, it's done. Really. The inheritors get it, and then because of the step-up clause, they will not get taxed on anything that you've accrued. And so if you bought Amazon stock 20 years ago and then you died, then typically if you sold that stock prior to your death, you would have been 15% down because capital gains tax. But your inheritors won't because of that death clause. That step-up clause allows them to receive that money with zero tax liabilities. It treats it as if your inheritors bought that stock the same day you died. Now, sometimes probate takes 6 months, so your inheritors will be taxed approximately 6 months of gains. but it will still be considered long-term capital gains instead of short-term capital gains. Short-term capital gains are taxed at a much higher percentage. Um, and again, I know that there's a lot of things. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. If you have any questions, please ask me. But I've just spent so much time in the financial realm and watching financial news and blah, 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 that this is just the realm that I'm in. So, okay, this is the different financial tools that you can use to get to your FIRE goals. And then here's your debt. A lot of Americans actually have a debt of about $10,000. Um, and, you know, that's pretty bad, but around the average credit card debt of 2,500. So if you're those people who have around 2,500, you're doing pretty good actually. Just make sure to get it off your bill because look, it's taking almost 6% of your entire gross income. So make sure that you're paying off your debt. And remember that this number is just a static number. So if I need to change this to 500, then okay, but 5,000, then okay, but it's not going to calculate for your accrued interest. So let's say that you're accruing an interest of, I don't know, 11%, then this is going to be like 1.11 because 1 is going to be the whole number plus the 11%. And let me make sure I put an equal sign. It's freaking out. And so now instead of $5,000 in debt, you're $5,550 in debt. And honestly, it's typically worse than this because this 11% is probably going to be taxed per month. And some lenders even do it per day. So just like the compound interest can work with you, it can work against you. Debt is where compound interest works against you. Get rid of it. There's other ways that you can use debt, but I'll talk about that later. Okay, bills, net income. So now that we've calculated how much we're putting into our FIRE savings and how much we have in tax liabilities, really all we're making from $20 a year or $20 an hour is $25,000 a year. And so with our bills being about $20,000, which is calculated from just adding all of these bills up together, we only get $5,000 a year from all of our work. And so it's just important that we are making these considerations when we're moving forward. And so here we have our taxes broken down for us. We have the 401k broken down for us. You need to check with your pay stub to determine how much you have or are paying within your health insurance. Again, debt auto-calculated divided by 12. Emergency savings auto-calculated. So we're going to make sure that we are paying the appropriate amount into our savings account. And then we have our other non-used amounts. And so Roth IRA, HSA, and then business if you have something that you want to explore, side hustle, etc. I hate the word side hustle. If you have another venture, that's what the white people say, then we can do it that way. Then here we have monthly net income. So then from our checks telling us that it's $3,506 a month, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, oh, okay, this is how much I have, so let me spend that much. Don't be that person. Be the person who realizes that your actual monthly net income is just $2,000 a month. Then we need to, pay for our house bills. You're probably going to be separating at this amount with 2 or 3 roommates. And so I'm going to be paying $500 in rent. Gas and electricity, you need that. Rental insurance, if you're renting, you're probably going to need that. And so what these breakdown expenses are, and that's why you see BDE in parentheses here, is just breaking down what those expenses are. And so here we can see our total amount, car expenses, groceries, etc. And so when I get ready to pay for my emergency savings, then that's easy. I just can go ahead and say, okay, I paid for it, that's $0. Let's go ahead and subtract it from what money is left. This will likely be a lot higher, right, if you're starting your month. And so if I'm starting my month with the 3,000, right? Yes, $3,506.76. And I subtract the amount that I just put into my savings account. Then I have this amount left. Then you just copy it over and paste. Is this tedious? Yeah, a little, but we're keeping on top of our money, and that's what's important. And this has also helped me spend less money because I know in the back of my head, every time I spend money, I'm gonna have to do this calculation. I have to go on my phone, I have to go put in the numbers, make sure everything's good, and push it forward. So I can keep on track at all times. It takes discipline, like I said. It's not hard, it's just a lot. And it can be a little overwhelming sometimes, but it's not hard. It's just discipline. It's just doing this consistently. If I need to update one of my bills, let's say that my rent shot up. It shot up to 750, which is actually what I'm paying right now in rent. Then I just make sure that's added in there. We can see that it's part of the calculation now because of this breakdown amounts. If I want to say, okay, I paid for my rent this month, then instead of going through and doing it here, because these are all auto-calculated based on the breakdown, we are doing it here. Of course, you can make your own sheet. Of course, you can do this a different way, adjust it however you'd like. But this is just the most effective way I found to do it for myself. And then I just add dates. I make sure, okay, right now it's February 28th. I'm gonna have housing coming up pretty soon. So do I have the money for it? Am I fucked? If I'm a little screwed over, then I need to pull out of my emergency savings to make sure I'm not missing a single bill. And we're just pushing it forward, pushing it forward, pushing it forward. And let's say I need to delete something here. So uh I'm not really in the position to be saving for a down payment right now. So let's say I want to delete this. Then I'm just going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to move all of this stuff up. And Google Sheets makes this easier than Excel. Because in Excel, you have to like really make sure that all of your equations are back on track. But with Google Sheets, it typically just adds it all together. If you want to verify that, just make sure you click into the equation itself. And look, see, this is why we verify. Now we see that it got all the way to car payments. And so how I try to break this down by class is housing, 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 car expenses, car expenses, car expenses. So you see just very clearly, oh, okay, this is all in housing. Why is this in housing? There's rent, PG&E, etc. This is housing. This is the total cost. And so here, this goes from D12 to D16 now. This one, we just again double check. Oh, look, car payments is missing. Then we need to do D17 to D20. Got to pay your registration. And then what else is broken down? Entertainment. Let's go up one because we need to do this and this. Phone. I mean, I'm gonna leave it there because there's nothing affecting the $35 amount. And so need to do the same for these when you get the chance, and that's just how you can delete one of these rows. Now, let's say I need to add something. I actually do need to add something because we got a storage unit. And so let's go ahead and add storage unit to my housing expenses. I'm going to go ahead and move this back down. I'm going to go ahead and copy one of these rows. Then I'm going to just rename it, right? So here I have a storage unit. under the class of housing. The thing is due on the 16th, and then the total amount that's being paid is 128. It's actually 178. It's pretty expensive, but yeah. And then I'll just make sure to copy that over. And there's the storage unit. So again, I'm just going to make sure under housing that I'm including that in the amount, 17, 17. That's correct. It's actually supposed to be 21 because you can see that it's grabbing that YouTube music. And that's correct. This one's off by 1. And then et cetera and so forth. And so this is how you will build out your sheet. We can then make sure that we're updating it whenever we're on the proper day. And so now it's the 1st of March, let's say, and we're ready to make sure we're taking out all these debts. And we see, oh, okay, debts on the 1st, minus that, minus anything else that may be on the 1st, registration. And we're just making sure that we're keeping track with this. I, again, usually only mess with this when I am purchasing something outside of my normal bills. And when it comes to my normal bills, which is pretty much tracked in this sheet, I just make sure that I go through it every Monday, really every Monday. And if I miss a week, fine, whatever. But the point is to just try and keep on track with everything. And so, yeah, this is how you keep track of your monthly expenses. And then how you grow your credit score is, oh, literally open like 7 to 10 credit cards and just pay them off every month. You have to cycle through them every now and then because there is an actual like expiration date of, I believe, 3 years for credit cards. And so if you don't use them for 3 years, then you may be at risk of your credit score dropping because your credit limit drops. So what we're doing by getting 7 credit cards is one credit card can have a credit limit of $1,000, another one can have $4,000, another one has $2,000, another one 800, and your score is going to drop like shit the first time you open these because they don't like it when you're opening a bunch at once. If it's your first time opening a credit card, that's actually really good because you can open like a bunch at once because they usually approve people who are opening for the first time pretty quickly. But honestly, just wait the 6 months. It's not hard. And so every 6 months you can apply for a new credit card. They'll give you one. And as they see your miss 0 payments, as your credit score, as your credit card age improves, as this improves, your credit will improve as well. And so there's different factors here. And so I'm going to go into my Credit Karma to show you. And we all have Chase here. And so Chase shows you I believe it is Experian. And so the easiest thing to keep track of your credit score throughout as an individual, it's different for businesses, is to get Credit Karma. They do soft checks all the time, just like Chase does. And so in your Chase app, you can literally scroll down, click on check credit score, and it's going to show you what your Experian score is. And so if your Experian score is, we'll say it's 758, then 758, but TransUnion and Equifax have different ways of tracking your credit, and these scores can vary. They're not going to vary by much, but they can vary. And so the way that you want to look at this when you're doing your credit score is look for the lowest one. Why? Because if you're going to go apply for a credit card, if you're going to go buy a house, if you're going to buy a car, they are going to look at whatever they're going to look at. They're not going to ask you, "Oh, can I look at your which one would you want me to look at? Do you want me to look at TransUnion?" And you're probably going to say, "Yeah, because that's your highest one." But you don't get that say. They are going to choose. And so I honestly believe that choosing the lowest one is the best way to measure your credit score because then you see, oh, okay, it's really like 756. And the other thing is when you go to buy a big purchase item, those credit requirements are stricter and different. And so when I went to buy Blueberry, my Honda Civic from like 2023, 2024 um car, that one, mine had a credit score of 760, but when they pulled it, it showed up at like 745. And so this is a warning about those bigger purchases. Whatever, for whatever reason, those bigger purchases have much stricter credit requirements. And so when it comes to those bigger purchases, expect this number to be subtracted by 20. If you're going in expecting to get a good rate on a car loan and then it gets shot, your monthly payment gets shot up because it wasn't the score you were expecting, just make sure you consider that because these scores determine um, your monthly payments if you ever get any of those loans. I end up having to sell that card because of insurance boosting its price on me by like $200 or something. It was crazy. So yeah. And so what you're doing by adding all of these credit limits together is you're getting a total credit score like limit. So now instead of just having $1,000 be your in total credit limit, you will have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, $7,800 of credit limit. And this credit limit is used in a kind of mean way. There's gonna be I'm gonna go through this in a second here too, but they only want you spending 30%. They want you to spend 30% or less of whatever it is that your credit limit is. And so because this is um like I said, 7,800, we're just gonna do this cell times 0.3, and we can see that that means every month your credit cards should not be anything more than a total amount of $2,340. So even if you don't expect to spend $7,800 a month, I really hope you don't, you probably expect to spend more like 2,300, especially granted our monthly net income, right? Our monthly bills. It's super simple to pay all of your bills with your credit cards, the ones that allow it, and just pay it off. You can have automatic uh, payments that pay off the full amount. Not all apps let you do that, but some of them do. And so just make sure you remember your due date. For me, I think Chase has it on the 25th. And so I just go in and on the 20th and just hit make payment and pay it all off. And I treat my credit cards like my debit cards. Just another security thing. Don't take your debit card out. Just don't. You can go to the bank with your credit card and ID and you're completely fine. They get a little annoyed about it, but that's completely fine. I never take my debit card out. I just don't. I have one debit card and it's in a box, and when I need it, I take it out and go to the bank and directly back. But other than that, I just never hold it in my wallet. The reason why is because there's so many different scams out there, so many different credit card scanners, etc. And who do you think the bank is going to fight for more? Are they going to fight for their money or are they going to fight for your money? The answer is their money. They always when it comes to your credit cards, are very, very quick to refund your money and go through the process and this and that, and they're insured and blah, 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 blah. And so they can just do that. But when it comes to your debit card being stolen, I've heard so many horror stories. This girl I knew when I was working at Stria lost like $3,000 and was stuck without $3,000, which then increased to $6,000 because the guy kept spending the money for 6 months. So just, and not only that, but they had to lock her credit card. They had to lock her entire account down. They won't do that for a credit card. They'll keep your account open. Why? Because they want to keep encouraging you to spend so that they hope that you slip up on your discipline and make them money. They call people like me freeloaders because of how much I'm disciplined and able to not spend money on them. But I'm also rewarded with it. As you can see, I have a 786 credit score. So it takes time, but you'll be able to do it. And so again, just going through some of the different ways that your credit is measured, you can just go to this credit health section. And the credit health section really just breaks it down. Oh, payment history. Excellent. I have 100%. Credit card usage, 8%. If you have under 10%, they love you. So try and keep it under 10%, but 30% is their max. Derogatory marks. This means that you are delinquent with payments, that you are just really got rejected for a credit application, etc. and so forth. That's really bad. Don't do this. Credit age. Mine is really poor. Why? Because I keep opening those credit cards. I am done now. I finally have my 7 credit cards. And so, over time, this will improve. And all I have to do is wait. Nothing else. Total accounts, 11. 11 because I had a personal loan, there were some student loans, etc. and so forth. They kind of keep that on your thing, and the higher this number is, the less they like it, but it's low impact, so who cares? And then hard inquiries. This is, again, measured every 6 months. And so if you ever plan on buying a house, opening a credit card, doing anything that involves a hard inquiry, wait 6 months in between. If you do, then this number stays low. That's it. I, again, opened mine in January. That's why I have 1 hard inquiry. After that, I have nothing. And it'll be 0 again in June. 3 months. So this is how you can increase your credit score. That is the importance of a credit score. Yeah, and you're going to need it if you're going to want to buy a house. Okay. Now, we've done the month-to-month. We understand that this will be different based on if you're an individual with no dependents, or if you have kids that you are marking as dependents, etc. and so forth. And then we can do things like look up even further statistics. I do quarterly reports. Quarterly reports shows basically just a breakdown of what you're doing month to month. And so I can just copy and paste, like let's say we're in April. Then I'll go ahead and look in here. I'll say, okay, my taxes is going to be $4,613. My salary, $42,000. Let's make sure I paste as just values only. My 401k amount. This will be based on your employer and what instrument they use for your 401k. My company uses human interest, and when you switch jobs, there's always a rollover method. And so sometimes it takes a while, like for mixed school, because of their bankruptcy and everything like that. It took like 8 months to get that money out and into the next account, but just be patient, do it the right way, and you won't have to face any tax obligations for switching it over from one company to another. And so then you check your amount. Let's say it's at $20,000 because we just started, and you can make additional contributions depending on your age. And then we have emergency savings. Let's say our emergency savings is just $500 right now. We have savings APR. And so savings APR is based on those high yield savings accounts. I love Betterment. Betterment.com is how I organize all of my saving goals, how I organize all of my, yeah, just how I organize all my savings goals. I'm gonna log in, actually, and I just want to make sure that no personal information is shared. But once I show you what's in this, it's just pretty cool. So it used to be cooler. When they first came out, they had what is it called? For their APY, APR for high yield savings accounts, a normal bank, normal banks have gone more competitive now since these digital banks came out. But normal banks, you should never have more than $250,000 in your bank. Never. Unless, like, seriously. FDIC only covers 2,000 500 $250,000 of your money in insurance. If the bank gets robbed, if they go through a digital hack, etc. and so forth, anything larger than $250,000 is just gone. So just open a new bank account. And with Betterment, they have a FDIC limit of $2.5 million. And that's why I like them. Not only that, but as I said before, I can organize my savings goals. And so as you can see, I have my emergency fund, housing, vacation, car expenses, gift budget, funeral expenses, and then they give me 3.25 APR. And so that's cool. I've been saving really diligently, and so I have my emergency fund figured out. I have my funeral expenses figured out, but I have no way of moving right now. No housing, no vacation, no car really, no gift. But we're getting there. It takes time. And so you can create these different goals. And like I said, they used to be more competitive. When they first came out, it was 6% that they were giving per year. But for our case, it's 3.25. And like I said, Chase's high yield savings account used to only be 0.03%. That used to be the standard. But because of these digital bankings, it seems like they've all come to negotiations and have all agreed upon this 3.2 figure. I've seen this across the board, other than other digital investment banks that are trying to be competitive right now, like Moo Money or something like that. Moo Money is at an 8% APR rate. And so since I have $500 in my savings account, that means I get $16 free just for having it in the savings account. That's it. It's easy. It's like a bond, but a liquid bond, because you don't need to be so strict about keeping it in there. If you have an emergency, you have an emergency. Take it out. Roth IRA, 0. HSA, 0. Stocks, this is going to be that brokerage account again, 0. All contributions. So all contributions is basically going to be the only money that you should be looking at. This is how I keep myself disciplined when it comes to investments. I have no fucking clue how much money I have invested, or like what. No, I know what I have invested. I don't know what value it is. So for us, again, let's just say that we have a total of $20,000 saved or put in there, then let's say 10,000. No, that doesn't make sense. Let's say the 20,000 and let me actually look at what we're going to put in our 401k each month. That's $219.17. Then all I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I'm keeping track of this number here because this tells me how much I've actually put in. You should be putting in a certain amount for fire retirement. This is going to be based on a teeter-totter effect, which I'll show in the yearly report. But essentially, you want this number to equal a certain number in here. You want all of these numbers to equal a certain number in the yearly report. But you basically have your all contributions amount. This gives you the ability to see how much you're putting in. So again, if I put just $100 in, I know I put $100 in. 20 years from now, after putting so much money in, I realize that, oh, I've put $20,000 and 219, and that's going to help me just know how much I got. Then this tells you an idea of your return. And this is going to be telling you how good or bad you're doing as an investor. Because now you're going to know overall what is your return compared to the S&P 500. Your goal is always to beat the S&P 500, but quite frankly, you just want to match it. You just want to diversify and match it. If you're close to the S&P 500 returns, then you're doing good. And so realistically, how I have this is if you just want to add all these numbers together, you'll know how much you've gained in value over time. But I just don't like to do that. I don't like to add all these numbers together. I just like to look at them as individual accounts, and this is just based on their true value. So like if my 401k right now is at a value of $20,000, cool. I don't know how much I put into the 401k anymore, but cool. And that's why I have this all contributions tab. So I know, okay, well in total, out of all of these different investment instruments, I put in $20,219. And so I got a return of 2.58%. And another really easy way to do this, if you really want to know how much money you got at the end, is just go ahead and say, okay, let's do equals all contributions times your return, right? So, and then this has to be plus 1 because we just want to make sure that you understand. And now we know that our total investment portfolio has $20,000, basically $21,000. I, again, don't like to know that number. I try to never know that number if possible, just to try and keep myself disciplined when it comes to maintaining my investment goals. Housing. This just helps you keep track of what housing has gone over the months and your other bills. And so this month was 500, next month will be 750, you know? And so just to try and help you keep track of these things. Oh, what changed? Why is my budget going up? What do I need to do better to maintain my money? Do I need to lower some of my expenses? Do I need to get rid of a car? Do I need to, sometimes you're gonna have to make painful decisions, but that's what this is for. And then you just fill out the rest of this information, car expenses, food, phone, entertainment. You fill out how much money was left and you do your other expenses. So like if I spent an extra $50 this month for whatever reason, then I should put that in there. And then that just gives you kind of an average of what it thinks that you should have at this point in terms of just income. And so this is based on yearly, by the way, not it's a weird calculation. Just anyway. Let's go to and talking about growth, you're gonna have lessons learned. You're going to want to keep track every quarter. Just say, hey, this is what happens. This is what happened this time. This is what happened here. This is what happened here. This is what happened here. So you can improve, so you can learn, so you can grow. And that's going to be the same for your years. You're going to have lessons learned as you continue. You will be on year one. I'm on year five. And so this is calculating a bunch of different things. This five represents what year you're on. If we're on year one, boop, we're on year one. Nice. Cool. If I'm on year five, it's harder. Why? This is again based on an entire like teeter-totter effect. It's not including compound interest, and it's to make it more difficult on you. But honestly, I find it more motivating. I find it more motivating because as I continue to adjust these numbers and improve and grow and this and that, these numbers adjust effectively. If my bills get higher, this number goes up by a number of years. If my bills decrease, it also goes down by a couple of years. And so it's really nice to see at the end of the year this number go down all the time. Like, really, 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 really. When I started, this number was 112 years. It's gonna look scary, but it should scare you. And then as you continue, it's gonna decrease. And if you do a really good job, you should effectively have it until you get really, really close to the end. Because once you're really close to the end, that's when it's like pretty spot on, pretty accurate as to how much years are left. And so here we have goals and we have what's needed. So for our goal, we always want $0 in debt, but we need $5,000. Not 50, but 5. We're going to do this down to year one so it's more accurate. For our emergency savings, again, we want 3 months of emergency savings. And in addition to this, you're going to want 3 months of food, 3 months of water, just 3 months of basic needs, right? And if you have that, then I would consider this goal finished. For our demo case, I need $9,000 to make sure that I'm good for 3 months based on my current expenses, based on this and that, blah, blah, blah. Investments, how much do I need? Well, because we put in the inheritance of $20,000 and we're going to continue moving forward, we need to invest $56,000 more dollars. This is based on that all contributions amount, not the amount your account is worth. Gross income. How much should your goal be? Your goal is going to be, if I remember this correctly, your goal is essentially this average here, because it's telling you how much you really need. And as an additional goal, having 3x what you need is just nice and important. And so right now it's telling me that all I need is $58,000 a year if I'm maintaining the same lifestyle. Again, this is a teeter-totter effect. You add bills, these numbers go up. You lower your bills, these numbers go down. You heighten your income, these numbers go down. Like, it's gonna teeter-totter throughout your entire life, but it works. This is an optional section. This is to track your assets. The total net worth of individuals on average, and this is for entire households, so don't freak out, don't feel bad, is $1 million essentially. So this number is just taking whatever we're putting into other investment portfolios and other accounts and just subtracting it, because your real net worth, your assets are your net worth is based on everything you own, and your assets are just physical assets that you can have. This is where we're tracking those physical assets, and this is also going to be based on your insurance policy. You need an insurance policy if you really want these assets to make sense. The reason being is because if you go through a house fire or this and that, you need to be able to say, hey, I need this money back. Most insurance policies have a requirement that if you cannot resell it for $50, it's garbage. So it's really hard to go through a house fire when you lose things like sentimental cards or this, and that, because you don't get that back in value, but you do get back whatever your limit is to this. I need to update my insurance policy because after doing the math, and I'm still continually doing this asset tracking, I'm not done yet. Um, you'll see that your insurance policy may not cover enough. I used Lemonade because it was a super cheap rental insurance thing. They only cover $10,000 worth of value. But when you go to do your asset tracking, you'll want to have a serial number. You'll want to have the item, category, etc. And I've written an article on how to do this. If you guys follow me on Medium, but if you don't, that's fine. But essentially, you just track your assets. This is what you could sell it for. This is what you bought it for. You know, and you just do that for all of your things, and that's going to give you this amount eventually. Optional, but just something to track, especially for this category here. Death costs. Death costs, this is just, again, this is more for your children, for your family than it is for you. It's to prepare for your own death. $15,000 for the funeral. You save for a funeral to help. I personally don't want anyone spending more than $100 individually to add to the funeral. So if, let's say, there's 12 people who are interested in trying to grow the funeral into a higher aspect, then that's $1,200 additional dollars, and then that's $27,000 for the funeral itself. And then this 0.04% is for death tax. There isn't a federal inheritance tax until after you've gifted more than $13.5 million. You don't think you'll ever hit that amount? Great. But so in that case, you don't need to worry at all. But after that point, it's 4%. Plus, California doesn't have inheritance tax. We don't have an inheritance state tax, which is really fucking nice because the other states have like 15%. It's tough. And so for this case, for probate, for et cetera and so forth, it's just making sure that you are saving an additional 4% of your entire estate. By saving 4% of your entire estate, you are then just guaranteeing that you are giving your family members the amount you expected. It's as simple as that. If you have $100,000 at the end of your life that you want to give, that won't be $100,000 when you give it to them. It's going to be less, probably more like $96,000. And if you want them to have that $100,000, just save an additional $4,000, right? Okay. All right, and then barista retired. There are different tiers to fire retirement, and your first goal is going to be barista retired. It's going to be different as you continue, but this is the first goal. This is going to be your main goal. Star goal is the goal that's basically it's the end goal for everyone if you want to be included in that star goal. Star goal for everyone should be $5 million. Why? Because if you have $5 million invested, that's pretty much a salary of $200,000 a year. And so if you never want to work a day in your life ever again and just chill and have fun and this and that and blah, 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 Have $5 million invested and you're there, right? That's going to take 96 years for this person to achieve. So, health is wealth. Why? Because the more time you have, the healthier you are, the easier it is to make money. Just be healthy, take care of yourself, exercise, eat well. If you're not prioritizing your health, you are sacrificing your chances of getting to this number. Plain and simple. So here it's telling me that it's going to take 2 years to get to the needed amount. And why is it saying that such a low number? Probably because we put in that $20,000, right? It thinks that we're going to be able to put in and contribute $51,000 a year. So that's pretty much correct. $51,000 a year to twice. This should more like be 3 years, but then you're done. And that's again, if you live in the same lifestyle. And that's to meet barista retirement. So let me go over the tiers now because, okay. And first, before I move on to tiers, let's go through these yearly reports. These yearly reports are just like the quarterly reports. You just copy one of these tables and it should be filled out pretty much automatically so long as you update where it's taking the information from. So you take the information from the correct place, you pull it in, and it's going to move all that forward. You need to insert a certain amount of money here. So that's another reason that looks like our funeral cost in this demo account is up to date, pretty much completed. Yeah, it's completed. And all of these numbers here are going to be averages of it. And so when you meet the end of your year, you're always going to see this number go down. And when you start the next year, you're always going to see that number go up because gross income, simply put. If your gross income is 42,000 a year, it's going to divide that by 4. And then once you get to the end of the year, you'll have all 4 variables. And finally, you'll be able to see, oh, okay, this is where we're at. Again, you could do this in different ways. I do this for mental motivation because it's hard. If I think that I have more money than I do, it's hard. If you are going to buy something, you simply have to overcalculate. You just do. People saying, "Oh, I can afford this, I can afford that." I literally ran into someone who was thinking that they could afford $900 in rent. And I talked to them about it, and they're like, "Yeah, $900 in rent. Why couldn't I do it?" Because utilities, because Wi-Fi, because et cetera and so forth. And they weren't having it. They weren't listening. It's okay if you don't want to listen, but you're going to have to pay for it. He's gonna go to a place that's $900 rent, and he's going to be in debt until he's kicked out because he has no electricity or water, et cetera and so forth. So, yeah, I'm doing this because I care and I want to help. And so just these things will help you figure out what you need, and then over time, everything will be done. Your goal for barista retirement should be 250,000, but really all you need is 128,000. There you go. Right? Then we have the tiers. And so here is every single tier for, I believe, financial freedom. I've labeled these based on just calculations, and you can probably do this faster if you started earlier in age, or you can do this better if you have other streams of income or et cetera and so forth. But essentially, you just need to learn what fire retirement is. Learn what fire retirement is, lower your expenses, and become debt free. If you can learn how to manage your money and do that, you've succeeded tier 1. So I've exceeded tier 1. 21 to 25, you should be able to save and invest money. You should be saving a minimum of 27% of your gross income, trying to increase income as much as possible, and needed goals for your income salary. So this is just about finding a good job, living in a super cheap place, and saving money. Wow, we can. Then we get to becoming barista retired. And so here, all barista retirement means is the ability to to be a barista. If you can survive the rest of your life working a part-time job in a super tiny apartment, then you're semi-retired. Maybe it's not the conditions you want, but you're semi-retired because now you don't need your job if you get fired. If you get fired, you can go work at fucking McDonald's and continue to try and just continue living without changing anything based on that 4% rule. And so that's wonderful, but you shouldn't stop here. This isn't where we want to stop, right? If you want to continue growing, then you want to go to lean retirement. Lean retirement is having a minimum of $500,000 in your investment portfolio. This allows you to live off that 4% rule that I mentioned before in poverty. But that means you don't need a job. So you could still get a part-time job and be good. And the main thing I think that's important for this is completing those end-of-life preparations. So for barista retirement, this is like the foundation of your retirement. You're finishing your saving goals. You have emergency savings and your death costs figured out. Then you want to complete all of your end-of-life preparations. End-of-life preparations include setting up a trust, making sure you have beneficiaries set up, wills. You start paying for proper insurances that you need so that, and yes, insurance is proper, is needed, unfortunately. I hate it, but you need it. And you also need contracts such as an affidavit of health and an affidavit of finances. You need those because as soon as you turn 18, your parents have no say over any medical procedures. They have no insight into anything that you're going through. And if you're unconscious, there is no way for the doctor to grant access. You want disability insurance and life insurance because disability insurance allows you to continue living your fucking life if you get hurt on the job, if you get cancer. These are serious things. I know it's not fun, but it's why I care so much. You want me to be less stressed? Take care of yourself. So that's lean retirement. Traditional retirement. You'll have a minimum of $1 million invested, attaining medium net worth throughout valuable assets. That's that optional goal here, right? And ensuring that you have a homestead for food and all types of stuff. Homestead stuff, that's bonus, but quite frankly, I just don't feel like it is. It's important that you have the ability to have your own food, your own water. Do you really want to rely on only 3 months of dried food and bottled water? I don't think so. So to be really wealthy, you should have this great foundation of tools and resources to truly survive. And so then you can become traditionally retired. And if you get here late, if you're here at fucking 65, who cares, dude? That means you can drink wine every day. That means you are, in the traditional sense, retired. You are living the median life style, retired. That's wonderful. So don't focus too much on these ages if you feel like you're behind, this is just what the path is if you want to meet the highest income streams available. Then tier 6, become coast retired. This is another one of those fire retirement issues where you want to save 1.5 million. It's just 1.5 million invested, granting you freedom to no longer have to contribute to your investment portfolio and retire at a reasonable age. So coast retire, and so these different ones are different levels, and we can even look this up. Fire retirement uh systems, or let's say levels. I think that's better. 4 different levels. The minimalist route. This is what I'm talking about, where it's lean. Traditional fire. You want to make sure that you can, so, and just to be very clear, lean, the other one is barista, where you work a job, but fire retire, rich and free. So this is also, yeah, fat retire. This is also known as coast, but essentially sometimes they go by slightly different names. But the idea is that for barista retired, you're able to cover 33% of your expenses. Lean retire, you're able to cover essentially all of your expenses. It's just, you got to be a brokey. Traditional is you get to live a pretty standard life. You're not going to be able to go on vacation very often or anything like that, but you're done with working. Coast retired or fat retired, that's where you get the ability to go on vacation. In retirement, you get to do other things than just be at home. And then we have tier 7. This is where you essentially just have to be a business owner. You have to be in real estate. You have to be in other income streams if you're ever going to want to make it here. And you will be the tallest dwarf because $5 million is the smallest rich people in America. You will now be rich. If you have 5 million invested, the amount makes you basically invincible, giving you $200,000 a year salary with the 4% rule. The 4% rule needs to be explained. I'm just realizing. But you get $200,000 a year without changing anything. And how can I continue growing, Anthony, if I'm taking 4% out every year? So again, when you learn about fire retirement, essentially what it's going to be like is you invest $100. And then at the end of the year, you got $110. Why? Because the stock market gives you $10 for free for just investing properly. Now that you have $110, you're going to want to take out $4. 4 divided by 12 is nothing, right? You don't really have any money. But if we up this to like 100,000, that's how much is invested, by the way. You have $100,000 invested. You get 10% of it. Let's make sure I'm doing the proper math. Yep. And then we take 4% of that. I don't know why that's set up as a date, but let's make sure that we make that a number. So that's $4,400 a year. And we'll make these all currencies just to make it easier. So now in your budget, when you're figuring this out and you take out $4,400, you're going to get taxed a little bit with long-term capital gains, et cetera, and so forth. You still want to make sure you have some buffers when you do this. Um, and, I've tested this. I have tested this when I was making sure I was taking care of Grandpa. This is how I managed to keep them alive, is with this 4% rule. Okay. So this works. Just note that you do need somewhat of a buffer because there was when you're selling those stocks, time goes fast, and if you can't sell them fast enough, you can lose a value of about I believe I lost around like 0.00 or like 0.02% of the money just from trying to get it transferred from stocks into liquid cash. Um, but so just make sure you have a little bit of a buffer, make sure you extend your savings account, et cetera, and so forth, before you're ready to retire. And so here, 4,400. So we just make sure we divide this by 12, right? Because there's 12 months in a year. That means that you get $366.67 basically for free each month for nothing. Well, maybe not for nothing because you put this amount in, right? But that's forever. Why? Because now this amount, right, is going to be this minus this, $105,600. And without you having to invest a single dollar more, you're still fine. Why? Because again, next year it's going to increase again. Is it always going to be 10%? No. That's why I said it's important to do variance. That's why it's the 4% rule and not the 5% rule or the 6% rule. It's the 4% because you need to stay under how much it can vary. And in a really, really bad stock market instance, you can see yourself getting a return of 5%. And so no matter what, this number grows. That's the power of the 4% rule. And so when you become barista retired, you can immediately start taking out 4% if you want. I don't suggest it. I don't suggest it until you make it to like one of these other tiers, but you can. And so then, yeah, here you want to get that $5 million so that you get 200K a year and make sure all of your other just buffers are figured out. Then we have tier 8. For tier 8, we have partnerships. You want to really make this family wealthy? We need what's called a family office. I'm in touch with other programmers and other investment people as well. Like literally, I have a friend who's working for the Winklevoss twins. Not a joke. And they set up what's known as a family office. To make a family office, you need a minimum of $50 million. That means that you can do this relatively quickly if you find other people who are willing to liquidate and get into this. By liquidating with 10 people, you get the $50 million amount. You open up a family office, and a family office is essentially where you hire a bunch of quants, investors, and engineers to grant high returns. They're using fiber optic cables, they're using AI, they're using algorithms, they're using all types of shit to get different advantages. They're doing futures, longs, margin trading, they're doing everything. And so without you having to lift a finger, you've hired these people to give you guaranteed returns, and their job is to give you these high returns. You don't just invest in the boring stock market anymore, where you only get 5 to 10% return a year. You invest in a family office, and just having that larger amount of 50 million in there or whatever, you get an average of 20 to 60% return a year. 20 to 60% return. You saw how I showed $110,000 from just the regular stock market? That would be $160,000 if you made it max out. That is 50,000 more dollars for free. And by using the 4% rule, if you continue to use that 4% rule, you've literally just doubled it, even if it only gets to that minimum of 20% return. Instead of getting 200K yearly, you have 400K yearly. Congrats. It's a really big achievement. If you get 10 to 20 additional people, you are more likely to get to that higher rate of return. With only 10 people, with that 50 million minimum, you're probably going to stay around this 20% range. With 10 to 20 people, you create a multi-family office, which minimum needs $100 million. And this essentially just gets you closer to that 60% return. So do I want $120,000 a year or do I want $160,000 a year? Simple as that. Then, last stage for those really, really wealthy on the top of the world families, they create a bank. You can create a bank at any time, technically. You don't need a specific amount of money to open a bank, but you're probably going to want it to manage and maintain money and et cetera and so forth. And this will start as only a family bank, a family only bank where just within the family, close friends, et cetera, can extend their wealth, extend their growth. By creating a bank, this allows those family and friends to get access to extraordinarily low interest exclusive contracts, allowing them to make money in the process and trickle income up and keep capital within the family. This is this is what the Rothschilds do. This is how they get the most amount of money kept within the family, et cetera, and so forth. So instead of going to the bank and getting that 11% loan, you are instead going to the family bank and saying, hey, um, I want to buy a car. Can I get a 4% loan? Can I get a 2% loan? Sure. We don't care. Do it. Why is there interest? Trinkle up the money and it also in turn trinkles down. Once you die, whoever else is in charge of the family bank continues to maintain the wealth and continue the growth. Oh, um, what if I want to start a business? Well, it teaches them about money too. Okay, well, look, you have to remember that you have to pay back this loan. This is for the family inheritance. This is for the family growth. If you fail to pay back your portion, then you're no longer allowed to be part of the bank. That's how those contracts typically go. Keep the wealth in the family, keep it growing, keep it moving up. So, those are the 10 tiers of wealth. Um, and there's many different things that you can look at as well throughout this document. I mean, there's, like I said, asset tracking, real estate. This real estate map helps you figure out how much income you can make per real estate like per rental unit, etc. So I wouldn't rely on equity. I really like relying on profit from rent instead. But you can see that this is kind of incomplete. I haven't gone through the process of buying a home myself yet, and so this part's a work in progress. There's certain parts that are also work in progress of the business. I haven't completed building a business, so this is a work in progress, et cetera, and so forth. But and you can add additional things like stock watch list and other things to try and help you keep track of your money and be on top of the world. And so, yeah, that's pretty much everything when it comes to managing your money in that aspect. Now, I love Fidelity too. Fidelity is my investment broker. You can use Robinhood, but Robinhood is bullshit. They prevent people from trading to help the rich, and they sell your data to the rich so that they can they're probably selling it to family offices, to be honest. so that they can make better trades, et cetera, and so forth. And so, yeah, don't don't do that. Okay. So here's my HSA account. I opened this a while ago, and you can see contribution limits for 2025, 2026. Sometimes they let you do additional contributions if you haven't hit your maximum amount for previous years. And so that's kind of nice because then you can just go back to the previous year and just make your max contribution if you have that extra money available to you. I do not, so we're not going to do that today. But essentially, all I'm doing is just like any savings account, I have automatically set up payments from Chase Bank directly into this account for how much I could save per month. And so it goes in here once a month, but that's not where it ends. You have this brokerage account open, but now you need to focus on your positions. So in cash, I have $600.45. This is bad. Why? Because this is money that is not in the stock market. This is how your account will start. And I need to point this out because there's people who will invest into a Roth IRA, an HSA, or their brokerage account and think that they're good. And then 10 years later, they're like, okay, but why has nothing grown? Because you haven't invested the money yet. It's just sitting in the account. You need to actually choose stocks to invest in to get there. So that's the difference. Um, so make sure you're putting your money to work when you actually open these accounts. 401k is the only exception to that. 401k is the simplest, and why I say to start there, because your employer will have contracted another company to do that. It would be the other company's job. Like for me, Marshfield Consulting does human interest, and so human interest is in charge of managing the money, the investments, etc. I just have to put the money in. They do the rest. If you want to hire investment brokers to do management of your stocks, et cetera, and so forth, you could do that, but they take a percentage, which reduces your income, of course. So yeah, just it's not that hard. Just make sure you put this money somewhere. And so I have this HSA account. You see that I'm invested in a bunch of different things. I'm invested in Apple, DraftKings, Coca-Cola, just some other things that I thought would be nice. Visa. Visa's been pretty good. Um, and then I can do trade. And so let's say that, and remember, we aren't on Pacific Standard Time, so that we're on kind of a disadvantage. You want to trade on time, you wake up at 5:55 and get ready to trade at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. to um basically 2 p.m. is the trading margin. That's why you see that trades after hours is closed because this is based on the New York Stock Exchange. Everything's going to be based on Eastern Standard Time. So they're going to want you to trade during those hours of 6 to 2 p.m. in Pacific Standard Time. So here I have my stocks that I'm going to trade. Only choose stocks. You could do options and other things in the future, but really just do stocks. I'm in my health savings account, and let's say that I want to look for, let's do more Coca-Cola. Why not? Then that's $75.55. I have the $645 available, so my action is going to be to buy. I'm going to buy, and I always like to do dollar amount instead of share amount because you can do what's known as fractionals, and fractionals is the decimal point. Back then, that used to be not a thing. You used to have to buy whole shares. So I used to have to buy uh, like four, if I wanted to buy four full shares, that's four times 75.55 plus a fee. This is so advanced that we don't pay a fee for that, and they fractionize it. And so you can buy 0.01 of a stock, and so you don't need the full 75.55. You need 75 cents for 0.01. And so anyway, I like to do it by dollar amount, and just in case it fluctuates or et cetera and so forth, I can do that. Let's say I want to buy $50 worth. Cool. I can't say market right now because the market is closed. So if I said limit, then I have to set like a certain amount of days as to which I'm going to do it in. I would just do market when the day is appropriate, and then do preview order, and then make that order. And now I'm invested in Coca-Cola. How do you choose stocks? That's a different story. And I have a meeting in 2 minutes. And so, but yeah, I just wanted to get this out of the way and really explain uh, how you can manage money, how we can push forward, and how to be respectful towards others as they receive their inheritance. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, please do not be afraid to ask me. And yeah, so there's that. Hope this was helpful. I know that it's a lot, but you know, one day at a time. It's not gonna happen overnight. Okay.